what's happening, y'all? Welcome back to the Media Goose channel. It is I, the Media Goose, RJG, Ryan James Gorman. And the goose is loose, baby. Huh? I'm coming at you today with my draft grades for the AFC. I dropped my grades for the NFC yesterday, so let's talk about the AFC today. I am starting off with the AFC West. Let me again say what I said yesterday in case you didn't check out the NFC review. I'm not a pro scout. I do not know every prospect in this draft. I know the first 4 to 5 rounds pretty well, besides when teams reached wildly. So I'm not going to know every player drafted, but I know the top 4 to 5 rounds pretty well. So cut me some slack if you don't mind. Starting with the AFC West, I am going to start with the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers brought in Akeem Messidor, Jake Slaughter, Brennan Thompson, Travis Burke, Genesis Smith, Nick Barrett, Logan Taylor, and Alex Harkey. So I ended up giving the Chargers a B. I like Akeem Messidor a lot. He comes in with a lot of pass rush moves ready to go. He's a pretty pro-ready player, being the age that he is. Jake Slaughter, good, nasty interior lineman. Pretty sure he was primarily a center, but he has guard flexibility as well. Brennan Thompson, just a complete Mike McDaniel pick. He's like the Tyreek Hill comp. Little guy, blazing speed, so makes sense. Travis Burke, I believe, is a tackle, a versatile tackle. And then Genesis Smith, I like at safety. I think he has a chance to develop. And then if one of those last 3 picks develop into like even a serviceable offensive lineman, it's an even better draft than a B. Then I go to the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs moved up to number 6 for Mansour Delane. They took Peter Woods, R. Mason Thomas, Jaden Kennedy, Emmett Johnson, Cyrus Allen, and Garrett Nussmeier. So I think with everything that came out about Jermod McCoy and how much he fell, it makes sense that the Chiefs moved up to 6 for Mansour Delane because it was such a steep fall off from cornerback 1 to cornerback 2. I love Peter Woods. That's a player I really like a lot, and having him go there, he's a little undersized at D tackle, but him going to Spags, I think Spags will love Peter Woods. R. Mason Thomas as well, great scheme fit. Emmett Johnson is a solid late-round pick at running back, and then Garrett Nussmeier as a 7th is wild. Some of the guys that were getting drafted, Carson Beck, Drew Aller, I don't get them going over Garrett Nussmeier. So I gave the Chiefs an A-. They don't often end up picking in the top half of the draft, but man, they took advantage of it this time. I like moving up for Mansour Delane, love Woods and R. Mason Thomas, so it's an A- for the Chiefs. Now, the Las Vegas Raiders, the number 1 pick, Fernando Mendoza. Then we had Traden Stukes. He's a nickelback or safety. Kieran Crawford, a player I liked a lot. He might have more pass rush potential than his teammate, Keldrick Falk. Trey Zune, Jermod McCoy, Mike Washington, Dalton Johnson, Ezekiel Masses, Malik Benson, and Brandon Cleveland. I gave the Raiders an A. I think Traden Stukes was a really great pick in the 2nd round. I think he can play some box safety, some center field. He can play nickel. Like I said, Crawford, I think, has a lot of upside. He doesn't do great against the run, but I don't know. They've got enough guys that do well against the run. Jermod McCoy, best value in the draft. If you get him healthy and he plays anywhere near where he was, that's a crazy steal. Mike Washington, running back as the backup for Genty. That's smart. I don't like any of the other backs they have. And the rest of the picks, I just think it's good roster filler stuff. Good developmental picks that have a chance to develop. Malik Benson especially. I gave the Raiders an A. It was a great draft. Then lastly, for the AFC West are the Broncos. They got the worst grade in the division for me with a C. They didn't pick until the third round, and they took Tyler Onyedim. Then they took Jonah Coleman, Cage Casey, Justin Jolly, Miles Scott, Dalen Bentley, and Red Murdoch. I didn't know Onyedim before he got picked, and I know a lot of the prospects in this draft. The only pick I can say I really like is Jonah Coleman. Jolly could develop in like year 2 or 3, but I didn't think this was an especially good draft. I think their roster is good enough that you don't need to be bringing in starters. So as long as a lot of these guys can be rotational, they should be fine. But Jonah Coleman could have a pretty quick impact. So the Jonah Coleman pick keeps them from falling below a C. AFC North time, starting off with the Baltimore Ravens, a team that I, for a long time, have mentioned as my favorite team in the AFC. They went with Vega Ioane, Zion Young, Jacoby Lane, and Elijah Surratt, back-to-back wide receivers, Matthew Hibner, Chandler Rivers, Josh Cuevas, Adam Randall, Ryan Eckley, replacing the punter the Giants took, Rayshon Benny, and Evan Bernstein. I gave the Ravens an A. I think Vega is going to be a monster, probably an all-pro guard. I like both of the receivers they took, honestly. They're both kind of contested catch guys, and I don't know that Baltimore has that right now, so I like getting 2 guys who can make contested catches. I think Jacoby Lane may have a little bit more like downfield explosiveness than Surratt. Hibner and Cuevas make sense. They lost 2 tight ends in free agency, so you had to assume they would look to replace them there. Chandler Rivers, he's small, which caused him to fall, but I think he could be a good nickel corner. And Rayshon Benny, I thought, was a steal, where they got him in the draft as well. So the Ravens had a really great draft. Then to the Steelers, they had Max Ionicher, Jeremy Bernard, Drew Aller, Dalen Everett, Jennings Dunker, Caden Wetjen, Riley Nowakowski, Gabe Rubio, Robert Spears Jennings, and Eli Heidenreich. I gave the Steelers a C+. This has a lot of bust potential, I think. I think Max Ionicher, while solid and has a lot of potential, I'm not sure he's ready to play day 1, which they might need him to. Jeremy Bernard I actually like a lot. He reminds me of like a Sterling Shepard, just a really consistent slot receiver. He'll never be like a number 1 receiver, but he can be really serviceable in the slot. Drew Aller, another one of those quarterbacks. I don't know that I would have used a pick on him there. Dalen Everett is solid value. Jennings Dunker as well has the potential to play guard or tackle, probably more likely guard in the NFL. Caden Wetjen was a wild reach. He was so sure he wasn't getting drafted. He was golfing when he got the call. And then the Navy guy at the end of the draft, Heidenreich. Wetjen and Heidenreich might both be off this roster before year 2 of their careers. So not a good draft for the Steelers, in my opinion. C+. Ionicher, Bernard, Dunker, and Everett are the best picks, and the rest are not great, in my opinion. Then we've got the Cincinnati Bengals, who traded the number 10 pick for Sexy Dexy, so keep that in mind. Then they get the pass rush specialist, Cassius Howell. Takario Davis, I like him, but he was kind of overdrafted. Connor Lewis, pretty good value, as was Brian Parker, Landon Robinson, and Jack Endries. I gave the Bengals a B-. I think Howell, Lou, Parker, Endries, and Robinson could all be contributors for them. And the fact that they got Dex on top of all of this, I give it a B-. This was a solid draft that I think will end up having a lot of rotational players for the Bengals. And lastly, in the AFC North, the Cleveland Browns. Spencer Fano, they moved back from pick 6 to pick 9. Casey Concepcion, Denzel Boston, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, Austin Barber, Parker Brailsford, Justin Jefferson, not that one, Joe Royer, Taylon Green, and Carson Ryan. Cleveland gets an A+, y'all. Spencer Fano coming in to be your left tackle from day one. The fact that they got Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston is wild. They are like together a complete receiver. If you could combine them, they'd be perfect, but separately they can be two contributors. Denzel Boston, obviously an X-receiver, but I think he also has the potential as a big slot. And Casey Concepcion just has complete game wrecker kind of ability. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren falling as far as he did was wild. He can start as a effective in the box strong safety, so the Browns knocked it out of the park. I really like Austin Barber and Parker Brailsford as well. Royer and Ryan, solid late round picks. Browns get an A+. Excellent draft. Now, the AFC South. Gonna get started with the Indianapolis Colts. Traded their first rounder for Sauce Gardner. They drafted C.J. Allen, A.J. Halsey, Jalen Farmer, Bryce Betcher, George Gums, Caden Curry, Seth McGowan, and Deion Burks. I gave the Colts an A. I feel like if you told me their first 3 picks, you could have convinced me that that was a round 1, round 2, and round 3, not 3, 4, and 5, or 2, 3, and 4. Because C.J. Allen could have been a first rounder, Halsey could have been a second rounder, Jalen Farmer, second or third rounder. Bryce Betcher, I like. He's a 2-sport guy, center fielder, so he's got that downhill kind of aggressive style. They took a couple of rotational pass rushers. I'm not that familiar with them, but Caden Curry looks like the better of the two. And Deion Burks falling all the way to the 7th was one of the most shocking things about the draft. So the Colts getting Deion Burks as late as they did is a massive steal. And Seth McGowan as well, a good athlete coming from Kentucky. So I gave the Colts an A. Jaguars, D-. There is only one pick that kept them from being an F. Nate Borkersher, the worst pick of the first few rounds. A wild overdraft. Albert Regis, Emmanuel Pregnon, Jalen Husky, Wesley Williams, Tanner Koziel, Josh Cameron, C.J. Williams, Zach Duffy, and Parker Hughes. I don't know any of the last 3. Borkersher, awful pick. Using a second-round pick on a blocking tight end is wild, and they're not the only team that did it. The picks that keep them out of being an F are Emmanuel Pregnon and Jalen Husky. Pregnon could be a starter this year. Husky could be a nickel player, strong safety, could develop over time. And Wesley Williams is a decent pass rusher as well. Tanner Koziel might be the best tight end they took, and they took him in the 5th round. Yeah, this was a really bad draft by the Jaguars. It feels like they tried to draft like the Rams or 49ers, where like they take their guys. Y'all are not the Rams or 49ers. You do not have that track record of success. So where the other teams have like a history to stand on, y'all got nothing. And I think James Gladstone, the GM of the Jags, will be fired within 2 years. The Travis Hunter trade doesn't look great based on how much they gave up, and this is a dog shit class. Texans, not a lot better. Keelan Rutledge, Caden McDonald, Marlon Klein, Fabiche, Wee Wade's Woodas, Kamari Ramsey, Lewis Bond, and Aiden Fisher. I gave him a C minus. Caden McDonald was an excellent pick at where they took him. If you had switched their first and second round pick, they both are better value. But I don't even like Rutledge that much. I've seen him projected as their starting center. If that's the case, maybe it improves this pick, but we'll have to see if he can play. Caden McDonald is the perfect addition to this team based on all of the talent they have on their line. This was obviously a draft where they wanted to commit to a physical identity, but I just don't think they got a lot of great value outside of Caden McDonald, so I gave the Texans a C. Now, the Tennessee Titans. They shocked the draft, taking Carnell Tate fourth. Then they traded back in for Keldrick Falk, Anthony Hill Jr., Fernando Carmona, Nicholas Singleton, Jackie Marshall, Pat Coogan, and Jaron Kanik. I gave the Titans a B. This is a solid draft. I think Carnell Tate was overpicked at pick 4, but everybody was talking about him like a top 10 pick, so I don't think it's an overdraft, despite me not liking him. Keldrick Falk, he's like Eric Armstead, great against the run. Gonna have to see if he can develop his tools against the pass. Anthony Hill feels like a Robert Saleh linebacker, downhill aggressive. Carmona, interior offensive lineman that's got some upside. Coogan as well at center. And Jaron Kanik kind of reminds me of Daniel Bellinger for Brian Dable. And Nick Singleton, not bad. I think he can come in behind Spears and who's the other running back they have in Tennessee? Tajay Spears and it doesn't matter. The Titans get a B. And lastly, the AFC East. Starting off with the Buffalo Bills, who traded down a bunch. They get TJ Parker, Davison Igbonason, Jude Bowery, Skylar Bell, Caleb Elerms Orr, Jalen Kilgore, Zane Durant, Torrey Pride Jr., Tommy Doman, and Armaj Reed Adams. I gave the Bills a B-. I think this is a solid draft. TJ Parker wouldn't have been my pick there based on some of the pass rushers on the board, but I think at that point they're taking the guys that they want the most. So if Parker's your guy, that's fine. Igbonason, I think, can play. I liked him a lot. I liked him coming out of Ohio State. Jude Bowery's pretty solid. Skylar Bell as well. I like the value on Kilgore, Durant, and Pride. So yeah, I give them a B-, but I think a lot of the players here, especially Kilgore, Durant, and Pride, if they develop, this has a potential to be like an A- kind of a draft for the Bills. Now, the New England Patriots. I know I've got some Patriots fans friends, so let's get into their draft. We've got Caleb Lomu, Gabe Yakis, Eli Raritan, Karen Pranty, Demetrius Crownover, Namdi Abazor, Baron Morton, Jam Miller, and Quintavious Hutchins. I gave the Patriots a B. I think Caleb Lomu was solid value for where they were. I had him going earlier in the 20s. I will say he's got some stuff to work on. He needs to up his play strength and his first step. I think it would be better if he didn't have to play right away, but I do think he can. He might be their long-term left tackle if they end up moving Will Campbell inside. Gabe Yakis is a steal where they got him in the second. He could have been a first, I think, and I feel like he's a really toolsy player who his effort alone will make him a really valuable piece, and I just think he's a good add to that defense. I like Eli Raritan, the tight end from Notre Dame. I feel like he can be a Hunter Henry replacement. Crownover was a good pick as well. He could be a future starter at tackle as well. So him and Lomu, that could be your future starters. Baron Morton I didn't love, and I don't know a lot about Miller or Hutchins, but I gave the Patriots a B. I think this draft has a lot of boom or bust to it, with Caleb Lomu and Crownover as like high potential, but also high bust possibilities. So I'm going to give it a B, but it has the ability to go up or down depending on development. Then the Miami Dolphins, they got a lot of picks, but that doesn't always speak to the quality of the picks. Caden Proctor went 12th. Chris Johnson, Jacob Rodriguez, Caleb Douglas, Will Kaczmarek, Chris Bell, Trey Moore, Kyle Lewis, Mike Taff, Kevin Coleman, and I do not know the last three. I didn't know a lot about Kevin Coleman either, frankly. I gave the Dolphins a C. Caden Proctor was a reach, in my opinion. I think you missed out on other players to take him, I feel like. I don't think he was the 12th overall player in this class. Chris Johnson's really good value, as is Jacob Rodriguez. I like both of those picks to contribute to your defense pretty quickly. Caleb Douglas and Will Kaczmarek, awful reaches. Just terrible value. Chris Bell is a solid pickup, as is Kyle Lewis. I think Michael Taff has some potential upside. I don't know any of those final four picks. And Douglas and Kaczmarek or whatever were awful. And I don't like the Proctor pick. So I gave the Dolphins a C. Proctor really has to be... It's the first pick of this new regime from Green Bay, so y'all better be correct on him, and I don't know that he's worth the pick you took him with. So Dolphins get a C for me. And finally, the New York Jets. They go with David Bailey at 2, Kenyon Sadiq, Omar Cooper, D'Angelo Pons, Darrell Jackson, Cade Klubnik, Inez Cooper, and VJ Payne. I gave the Jets a B-. That might be harsh, but I don't love the David Bailey pick, and I don't know that I see him translating. I don't know that I ever see him becoming like a number one pass rusher, and that should be the upside of somebody you take second overall. If they had taken Arvell Reese there, I would have given them maybe an A. But I really feel like David Bailey is not going to be as productive as people think he will be. I love Kenyon Sadiq and Omar Cooper, though. I think both of them, I really don't care about what people are saying about Sadiq as a fit. Best player available, and make it work. D'Angelo Pons, he's small, but he's a dog. He's a really aggressive physical corner for his size who can play on the outside. Darrell Jackson could be a defensive tackle that gets some run this year. And VJ Payne isn't bad, but Cade Klubnik, ugh. So I gave the Jets a B-, and yeah, I think C+ would be too harsh on the potential upside of this class. But a B would also be too high for some of the... I don't know about David Bailey. I don't know about Jackson, Klubnik, or Cooper. So B- for the New York Jets. So the AFC East, I gave the Bills a C, the Patriots a B, the Dolphins a C. No, I gave the Bills a B-. Patriots a B, Dolphins a C, Jets a B-. AFC South, Colts got an A-, Jaguars got a D-, Texans got a C, Titans got a B. Then in the AFC North, the Browns got an A+, Bengals got a B-, Steelers got a B-, and the Ravens got an A. And for the AFC North, the Broncos got a C, the Chargers got a B, the Chiefs got an A-, and the Raiders got an A. So, y'all, those are my grades for the AFC drafts. What did you think of the draft? I feel like the 2026 draft is going to be really interesting to keep tabs on as we go over the next few years, because it was widely talked about as a less talented group. But I think there's a lot of depth in this class. I feel as though there are a lot of guys that were picked this year that will contribute as rotational players. So where you may not have gotten as many gold jacket Hall of Fame kind of guys, I think a lot of teams did a good job of filling out their rosters. So y'all, let me know what you thought of my grades. Give me your grades down below. The Goose is out. Hey!